life these days hardly ever allows us to actually hear our own thoughts, and like years turn into months, months turn into weeks, and weeks turn into days, that everything's super chaotic and all of it happens at once. And usually when this happens, our mind immediately turns outward, and we consume philosophy, or we look into religion a lot more, especially when we have problems or really difficult situations in our life. And both of these are amazing things, right? We have things which we believe came from God, and we also have something which is just a combination of thoughts and viewpoints from mankind. But like, when we look into these things, we need to have one thing in mind. And before reaching such a state of just having abundant knowledge or wisdom, what did these people exactly do, and how did they get it? We have so many things to consume these days. Like, we have endless reels, or we have so much information online which we can look into, which can apply specifically to our lives. But for some reason, we can't understand it, or we can't, implement it. And if we look into philosophy, for example, we have Marcus Aurelius, right? Who is a Roman philosopher. And I just recently started reading Meditations. And I didn't know until like a few days back that, yeah, everything in that book is just something that he journaled, and it's all his personal thoughts. It's not something which he thought was deserving of being shared to the world, right? And it's a compilation of that. And if we look into religion, for example, like Jesus spent 45 days in isolation, and he went, away from everyone else to pray to God. That's where he found that connection. And in Islam, we have the Prophet, who obviously, like, spent so many of his days in isolation and away from society, because he just thought, because society at that time was extremely just corrupt, and there was lots of obscenity. And only after that was he ever given any revelations. So, yeah, amongst all these three people, we find a common thing, and that's they spent a lot of time in isolation and just reflecting on things instead of consuming it. These days, our life is just filled with endless entertainment, or something to constantly think about, right? We have movies, or we have books, or we have songs, and so much of the time is just consumed by consuming, right? And yeah, and we have so much information online about psychology, or how to really solve our issues, but again, we spend most of our time consuming that instead of actually implementing it. And though this information can be helpful, it's not necessary that an application, all of it can be applied, or everything, you know, is applicable to us. In my case, for example, like, I spent 3 years in university, and it was super mundane and just like, uneventful. And yeah, I kept complaining at the start that, like, oh, there's nothing fun happening. There's no like interaction within the class, or there's nothing else outside university going on either. And I was just complaining about it constantly for like the first 2 years, maybe. And after a point, it just kind of forced me to look into myself, right? And to actually think about what I'm doing, think about what I want to be doing, and, you know, just completely process my feelings about things. And yeah, that can be seen as an application of this, which I did unknowingly. And I feel like we just need to make this process a bit more intentional, right? Like, we consume so much, countless reels and just information on it. And some of it might be helpful or related to a situation. But I feel like we really need a balance between how much we consume and what we actually reflect upon. And yeah, so many of these answers lie within ourselves, and we just spend our time not listening to them. And yeah, that's pretty much it.